Thank you, General Wittmann. I apologize if I come back to the European Union once more, but I had raised my hand hours ago to compliment Mr. Smola's question, but I still find it important, and it's a very short remark. I am not concerned about the so-called different cultures, but I am very concerned about the concrete blockage, which must be overcome. And I want to add one aspect which most people seem to have forgotten. Turkey was an associate member of the WEU. And when the WEU's security policy functions were absorbed by the European Union, Turkey lost all that. And I remember hours and hours and hours in the NATO Council and in other committees where Turkey desperately clamored to get back what they called the WEU acquis. And I could think, in connection with what the Secretary General also said this morning and what others said, I could imagine a comprehensive offer to Turkey that may include what has been mentioned, EDA, ESDP, security agreement, but where the spirit would be more important than the technicalities, and where also a certain constructive stance would be required from Greece. And one little spontaneous reaction, only 2 sentences to what Fyodor Kobieracki said, describing the mood in Russia. I think there is much self-created paranoia vis-à-vis NATO, and I think that if the zero-sum thinking in security matters, where one side can only gain at the expense of the other, is not overcome, then any dialogue about these matters is useless. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have the last question, but rather technical. Nevertheless, I think it is important because one of the elements of confidence building was CFE and the whole regime of verification. CFE is suspended. Any idea what we are going to do about it? And are we going to sort of revise it and bring it back to the forefront, or are we going to scrap it? Okay, so, well, now I will ask everybody for final comments and answering the question, and I will start with Heather.
Thank you. These are super questions. I'm going to be very brief, but they are certainly due a lot longer conversation. Let me begin with the Secretary Clinton's comments on the nuclear umbrella. As I understand it, when she visited, that was a bit of a faux pas because it suggests that we've agreed to, you know, we're assuming a position of Iranian nuclear capabilities, then therefore will require an umbrella, and that I think caused more of the headline problem than the suggestion. But it does seem ironic, in my view, that the German coalition government has really begun a conversation that came out of a coalition agreement about taking a look at its posture vis-a-vis U.S. nuclear weapons on its soil. And it's now gone into 5 NATO members have submitted a letter to have the deterrence policy reviewed, and it will be reviewed in Tallinn at the ministerial. So we have some motion here on a particular topic. I think it adds a level of complexity to NATO, not only working on its strategic concept, but also looking at overhauling its command structure. That, in American terms, is a trifecta, and that is a lot for any political body to handle, and it's a lot to handle all at once, for sure. The U.S. government has stated in its strategic posture review that it believes there is a role for deterrence and European sharing in that burden. Again, it's ironic when we're looking at potentially deterring Iran that some of our European members are wanting to support President Obama's vision of a global zero, but the implications in the short term, I think, will be very challenging. To Constance's view on American interests in NATO, Okay, you're right. There's a healthy bit of skepticism about NATO, both Republicans and Democrats. But it's frustrations with caveats, it's frustrations that they thought additional commitments would be forthcoming. Europe is frustrated because, you know, America, would you make up your mind? You continually review the Afghan policy. This is very unpopular politically, and then you're ungrateful for what we contribute because it's not sufficient. And that dialogue is a circular firing squad in some respects. So we wonder that NATO comes out of it a bit wobbly. But I think there is, while taken for granted, NATO is the cornerstone of our alliance, and Secretary Clinton's Paris speech, she's done phenomenal work. It's just not getting heard because the day after Secretary Clinton, oh, that's a slip, Secretary Clinton gave her Paris speech, the next day the administration canceled the US-EU summit, and that was the headline. So we take a step forward, we take a step backward, but it's essential. Congress will defend this alliance, and they want it to succeed. But we have to be very understanding that the paradigm that we're working on is shifting. And we have to be very cognizant of that. On CFE, my last thought, my understanding, we have a special envoy, put that in quotes, someone who's specifically looking at CFE and revitalizing CFE in the State Department, someone who's very well known to this group, Toria Nuland, former U.S. ambassador to NATO. So I think there is some ideas and some concepts about trying to revitalize this, but until started, I think that will be something that's going to be in development down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol?
Thanks.